Hello, hello, hello. Just gonna wait a few minutes and see if anybody wants to hop on the live before we dive into our topic for the day. Today's topic today for the Womb Portal series. I'm so excited, you guys. I'm doing this like every single day now. But we're talking about relationships and ma'at today. So this is day 3 of the Womb Portal series. And if you haven't been here yet, welcome. If you haven't joined my sister community group on Facebook, the link is in my bio. The website is in my bio. I'm also having now open enrollment and applications for the Womb Portal Menstrual Rites of Passage. So if you want to claim your spot for that program, classes begin May 2nd, you guys. So definitely book a call with me, put in the application, and we'll see if it's a right fit for us. But anyway, we'll just wait a few more seconds before we get started with this topic, because this is definitely a big one. And this is a topic where I had to learn a lot about myself and about other people. So definitely just get settled in. I'm just going to light some sage. All right. So like I said, and like I say in all of my videos, I trust that this video will reach the right people at the right time, whether people are on during it live or not. I trust that whoever needs to hear this message will hear it. And so I'm just really going to get right into it on day 3 of the Womb Portal series, talking about relationships and ma'at. So I really want to go into this topic today because this was a big part of my womb healing journey. I was the type of woman that was very, very insecure, very shy. I did not want to speak up for myself. I was not confident in myself, and I really didn't even love myself. I was an overgiver in all of my relationships. And so I was constantly manifesting this. I was constantly recycling relationships that really just were toxic and not healthy. And in a lot of those relationships, I was codependent. I was not happy. I was not satisfied with these relationships. And I started to see that these relationships are really just reflections of how I feel about myself. And this is where the part of ma'at comes in, because ma'at in Kemet, or, known now today as modern day Egypt, ma'at really just means balance. It really truly comes down to balance and righteousness and justice. There's a whole bunch of different topics around ma'at and what she stands for and what she resembles. But when you look into the traditions and the mysteries of Kemet, you see that ma'at really represents, where is it? Here we go. This is ma'at. This is the feather of ma'at. This represents lightness in your heart. It represents your heart being as light as a feather. Okay, I got this from Queen Afua in my Sacred Woman program journey that I took last year. And I've kept this since, because it literally reminds me of okay, my heart needs to be as light as a feather, meaning just you're not harboring anger, you're not harboring resentment, you're not harboring jealousy, you're not harboring bitterness, because all these things show up in your relationships. They show up in your relationships tenfold. And in the teachings of ma'at, if your heart is not as light as a feather, then you're basically viewed as you have judgment in here, right? And normally this judgment just comes from yourself. So whenever you see a reflection of your relationships, somebody's being mean to you, somebody's abusing you, or not really abusing, but I would say abusing in a sense where somebody is putting you down, right? or not valuing you, or you constantly are in relationships where you're being cheated on or you're being left or anything like that, or even friendships, right? Friendships, when you go into friendships and you kind of have that betrayal wound or the sister or the brother wound of someone really not showing up for you, like all of these things are really reflections of you not doing this for yourself, right? And I have really had to learn this because I was constantly recycling relationships where men would leave me. And I would really feel like, okay, I hope this relationship lasts. I hope he's the one. I hope, this guy really loves me. And I was recycling relationships where the men would leave me, where they didn't want to stick around, where they became overwhelmed. And honestly, this was really just how I felt about myself. I didn't feel that I was even worthy, right? And so we get into these relationships and we expect other people to be our everything. We expect other people to be everything for us when one person was never meant to be everything for you. This is why we have relationships, why it's a broad spectrum, why we have our girlfriends and we have our brothers and we have sisters and we have, family members and all that kind of stuff, because a relationship, your romantic relationship now I'm speaking about, is not meant for that partner to be solely everything that you need, and you guys are constantly consuming each other's time, and there is no space for solitude, and there's no space to hang out with your friends or any of those things. And we get really, really addicted to these relationships to where we start to create an identity around them. And I'm only speaking from experience, y'all, right? So anything that I say in my lives, I am only speaking from experience. I am not out here trying to preach. I am only sharing what I have experienced and where I came from in my womb journey to where I am now. So, again, right, we create these identities in our relationships and we attach our relationships to our identities. So you ever wonder why, like, sometimes you go through a breakup and the whole world is crashing down and you feel like you don't even know who you are anymore? It's because you've attached your identity to this person and to this relationship. And that was me. That was literally me. Every time a guy broke up with me, I was like, I don't know who I am anymore, because I had attached my identity to these men. And the way that I mean that is just that I started taking on all of their natural habits. I started consuming the things that they would consume. I started copying their mannerisms and gestures. And when you're in a romantic relationship, you naturally collide, right? You naturally mesh together in a way. But to a point of extreme, to where you no longer know yourself, to where the things that you love, you can only enjoy with that person. Or when you are not in a relationship, you don't know who you are. You don't like being alone. You are afraid to be alone, right? And this was the biggest fear I had. It was this fear of being alone, because I thought it was this doom and gloom thing, right? But just very recently, I spent, a whole month in Taos, New Mexico by myself. And I really just took that time to be alone. It was the hardest thing I had to do, because I was like, who am I when other people are not around? Who am I when I'm not in a relationship? Who am I when I'm not around my friends? Who am I when I'm not on social media? Who are you? At the end of the day, who are you? And so this is where it comes into relationship with self. Relationship with self is so, so, so important, because if you don't have a relationship with yourself and with the Most High, then you are forever going to be clinging on to these other relationships as sources and as an identity of you. And that's not you. These are reflections of yourself coming into your field that are like, hey, but ultimately relationship with self, relationship with the Most High and the inner God inside of you, that is really the most important thing of all. And again, like I said, I'm only speaking from experience, right? I was so attached to the only way that I can validate who I am was through external things, was through people, was through activities, was through social media, was through boyfriends and romantic relationships, was through sex, all these different things. And it really took me a while to come back to understanding that relationship with myself is so important. Ma'at with myself is so important. Balance and harmony with myself is so important. Balance and harmony with the inner God inside of me, the Most High, Source, Creator, whatever you call it. That is the most important thing. We can't go into these relationships and expect to receive all these things from people that we're not even giving to ourselves, right? And I was that person. I was constantly seeking like all these different things from men in my relationships. Like, well, you don't do this for me. You don't buy me roses. You don't take me out on dates. And I don't even do that for myself. Like at that time, I wasn't even doing that for myself. I wasn't taking myself out on a date or buying myself roses or treating myself in this, romantic way. I wasn't even romantic with myself, but I was demanding that from somebody else. And that's where we are not in ma'at. Right? That's where we're not in ma'at, we're not in balance, we're not in harmony with ourselves. And so there's discord in our 3D reality, and we're manifesting and recycling relationships that are not fun to be in, you're constantly the overgiver. And that was me. I was a huge overgiver. I was constantly giving so much in these relationships, because it gave me a validation. For me to overgive myself to someone, right? That's basically me saying, I get my source of self-validation and love from you confirming and validating it for me. By me externally doing all these things for you and giving of myself to you, just to hear you say the words, oh, thank you so much. You're amazing. You are powerful. I really appreciate you. Just to hear it from the mouth of someone other than me. Other than self, right? And so then I become dependent and codependent on these relationships of people. And you just really start to see that it's like, oh snap, like I keep recycling these relationships because I'm doing the same thing and expecting a different result. I keep giving of myself to everyone else but me. And you know that saying is true. You really can't give anyone anything from your cup unless it's overflowing. And I don't mean just here's the cup and the water's here and there's some drops coming out. I'm talking about 6 extra cups stacked on top of water, to that point. Because then it just becomes natural. It becomes a part of your vibration. It becomes a part of your aura. It becomes so effortless that you're overflowing with so much self-love that it's just naturally rubbing off on other people. And other people are like, wow, that vibe is really beautiful. And they're receiving nourishment from you just being yourself, just loving yourself, not trying to do all these things to externalize and get validation from the outside world and outside relationships, but because you're giving it to yourself in here. Because you're not relying on someone to say, I'm proud of you. You're not relying on someone to say, I love you. You're not relying on someone to say, you're powerful. You're not relying on someone to say, you can do this. You are literally sitting with self and the Most High in you. And you are already claiming that, and you are already acting as you are that. So, let me just take a breath. But hey girl, I love you too. But let's just really sit with that though, because I really feel like for me, a lot of my relationships, I blamed everyone outside of me for the way that they treated me. I was like, this person never shows up for me. This person's not a real friend. This guy broke my heart. I don't think my family understands me, right? It's still that victim mentality of everyone outside me is out to get me and to harm me. But your relationships in your 3D world are a direct reflection of how you have a relationship with yourself. And if that relationship with self is in ma'at, if it's actually in ma'at. And I learned a little bit about this too when I went through my Sacred Woman journey with Queen Afua. In the gateway of Ma'at, it was all about relationships. It was all about relationship with self, relationship with the Creator, relationship with your friends, your family, your partners, right? And is there an equal exchange going on, right? Is there a flow? Is there a balance? Is there a harmony, right? And sometimes we don't even realize when we're in abusive relationships because we constantly are abusing ourselves. And so we think that that's actually normal. And I'm not going to say that that's not a result from childhood trauma and things like that. I totally understand that. I'm just saying that at some point we have to really look at ourselves and look and be like, is this the life I want? Are these the relationships I want in my life? What is the ideal relationship I want? And just look at what kind of relationships do I have in my life right now, right? Just state that, look at that, like reflect on that, and then reflect on what are the relationships I want to have. And if there's a huge gap there, then that means there's some things that need to be done, right? And this doesn't apply to everybody, right? This applies to some people, right? But if you're still recycling and manifesting and creating relationships that you don't want, then something has to change in order for you to get the relationships that you actually want. And the most important, I will keep saying it, the most important relationship is with self and with the Most High. The Most High inside of you, right? Inside of you. And if you're having a mental diet of constantly putting yourself down, you're constantly judging yourself, you're constantly shaming yourself, then your relationships are just going to reflect that. Your relationships are going to reflect that. So having a relationship with self and with the Creator in ma'at, in balance, in harmony, right? That's going to flip your outside relationships. Then you're going to start realizing people are showing up for you like they've never showed up for you before. Why? Because you no longer need it. Because you're giving it to yourself, because you're honoring yourself. And whatever you do inside of you, your reality is going to reflect it tenfold. So if you're harming yourself inside here, your outer reality is going to reflect that to you. But if you're loving yourself and you're taking care of yourself and you're giving to yourself and you're soothing and nourishing and nurturing yourself, then your outer reality and relationships are going to reflect that. You teach people how to love you. You teach people how to treat you, right? You do. And so, yes, as we were growing up as children, there was so much that we went through, the trauma, the way our parents treated us, the way our siblings treated us, the abusive things that happened to us, right? And so we subconsciously learned to take that on as this is how I should be treated, right? But that's not the truth. That's an experience you went through, right? And so now if you're sitting here, right, and you're watching this and you're saying, where are my relationships currently? Whether that's romantic, friendship, family, self, God, whatever it is, how are my relationships right now? Reflect on that. And then reflect on where do you want your relationships to actually be? And like I said, if there is a gap of where you are and where you want to be, then you need to take some steps in between, right? And I had to learn that I couldn't do that by myself, right? I had to learn how to know when to ask for help, how to know when to lean on sisterhood for this, right? How to know when to lean on sisterhood for this, because this is a big thing, right? In the community of women, right? The big sister wound, all those things, right? The relationship of having sisterhood is so important. And I will say this over and over and over again. Why? Because our sisters lift us up. Our sisters hold us accountable, right? And so when a sister's getting low on herself and she's judging and shaming herself, and she has her sister sitting right next to her, at least if I'm your sister, I'm not going to let you sit in that. I'm going to be like, no, sis. Like, I know there's some trauma coming through. I know you're feeling overwhelmed. How can we help to soothe you? What do you need? But I want you to go get a mirror right now. And I want you to look in that mirror and say that you love yourself. I want you to speak words of hekau into your soul. Words of power. I want you to say, I'm beautiful. I love you, whatever your name is. I love you, Naomi. And I want you to feel that inside of you, right? Y'all, it took me so long to look in the mirror and love my reflection. It took me so long because the entire time, you know which way I had the mirror faced? At everybody else. I had the mirror facing at everybody else and I could not even see me. And so I was taking on everyone else's stuff. All of my relationships were reflecting this, right? And I was taking on the identities of everyone else. And my relationship with self only became that which I, connected with other people. Meaning that my relationship with self wasn't there. My relationship with self was equal to how people treated me. That's how I valued myself then. And now it's nowhere near that. Now it's been a journey of transformation to not just be like, oh, I'm God and I love myself, but to embody that. Like, what does it actually mean to love yourself, right? And not like getting hard on this whole topic because there's so many stigmas around it. Loving yourself is whatever it looks like for you, not what anybody tells you it's supposed to be, right? It doesn't mean you're supposed to get up every day and recite 20,000 affirmations. Okay, if that doesn't feel like love to you, then no. For me, loving myself means I'm going to close my door, blast all my favorite songs, and dance naked. That is my way of loving myself. That is a way of experiencing the joy in my being, experiencing the expansiveness of my being from a place of freedom, from a place of excitement, from a place of love. Sometimes I'll sit here and sing songs all day and I'll cry because I know that when I sing, it's the highest expression of love from my heart in terms of hekau, words of power, vocalizing, right? And so I'll sing because I know that in order for me to really sing and hit certain notes, that for me resembles me singing and speaking and expressing from my pure heart, right? And that's a way of me loving myself. That's a way I have a relationship. And I will, this is a crazy thing, but it's funny and it's so healthy for me. I talk to myself. I talk to myself, especially before I do these lives. Y'all, I sit here and I do a practice live and I start talking as if a whole audience is there because it's healthy for me. It's nourishing for me to hear what I sound like, what I'm trying to communicate, my message. It's important for me to hear my voice, right? And I think that was the hardest challenge I had with relationship and myself was I heard everyone else's voice but my own. I listened to everyone's voice but my own. I valued other people's opinions and perceptions and ways and practices of spirituality over my own. For what? For what? Because I thought they were more valuable than me. I put them on a pedestal. I thought what they had to say was more important than what I thought and believed of myself, right? And this was a real hard journey of self-love. Like I attracted so many toxic relationships, y'all. So many toxic relationships. It's not even funny. And I one day was just like, you know what? I'm fed up with this. Like, clearly I need to change something within my subconscious mind, within the way I treat myself, within the way I relate to others. There's something that a big leap in transformation needs to happen so that I can start to embody what this really means and start to see it truthfully reflected, right? The relationships. And relationships are so sacred. They're so sacred because people bring wisdom and medicine and healing and new things to you every single day. And so it's really just a matter of a question of what kind of relationships do you want to have in your life? Do you want relationships where people are bringing you down, where people are shaming and judging you, where people are condemning you? Or do you want to have a relationship that's free, that's peaceful, that's exciting, that's joyful, that's creative, that's loving, that's nurturing, that's nourishing, that's empowering, that's inspiring? Are those the kind of relationships that you want to have? Right? And in order to have those relationships, again, it starts with the relationship with self and the Most High in you. And really creating ma'at, really creating balance and harmony within yourself, right? I went through many similar things too. Yeah, literally. It's not an easy path, right? Because especially in the spiritual community, we're constantly being told how we should be loving ourselves. We are constantly told that. And I will say this till the day I'm no longer here, is nobody can tell you what your self-love journey looks like. Nobody. Only you know what your self-love journey looks like. Only you know the relationship you want to have with yourself. You don't need someone outside of you to tell you how it should look and be and feel. Having assistance and help and reminders are beautiful. But at the end of the day, your inner soul knows. You know what kind of relationships you want. Stop playing with yourself. You know what kind of relationships you want. You know the relationship you want with yourself and the creator. you know what that feels like. And if you haven't felt it yet, then there's work to do. But you know inside of you, right? So I have a lot of, y'all have to really excuse me because I have a lot of fire. I have not gotten on social media in years. And for those of you that have followed me for a long time, you know that I used to do this like every single day. Like every single day. So this is definitely a long time coming. Like there's a lot of lessons and experiences I have to share with you all, and a lot of healing that I have to share. And so a lot of my lives may be coming off as like very fiery, but it's just passion. I promise you, it's just passion. There's no judgment. There's no shame here. There's no, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. No, it's literally just passion because I care about women so much. I care about uplifting the sisterhood community so much. I care about seeing women in their power so much. I care about seeing women uplifted in their confident, bold, free, wild, expressive truth of who they are. Not relying on anybody, but knowing the inner God inside of them, right? Yes, these are all the biggest lessons I've learned this year. Yes, it's literally, this is such a good topic, relationships and ma'at, right? And I really feel like a lot of the relationships, the reason I'm so like passionate about womb health and women and uplifting the sister community is because I've dealt with the betrayal of sister wound and mother wound. And I had to learn how to be a mother to myself. I had to learn how to be a mother to myself and love the hell out of my inner child so that she wouldn't grow up to be resentful, bitter, jealous, right? Because that's the toxic wounded feminine. That's that wounded feminine energy where she's trying to control and dominate everything, right? I didn't want to turn into that. I didn't want to become that. And there were parts of me that were becoming that when I was constantly manifesting these toxic relationships because I didn't love self. And my mother was the first person who taught me what self-love looks like. And the way that I learned that growing up was self-love for a woman looks like she gives her body away to a man. Looks like she can't stand in her own power. She needs to rely on someone else outside of her, right? And it's really just powerful because it's like, especially as a woman in this day and age now, like self-love and having ma'at with your relationship with self, having balance and harmony and righteousness within yourself, like to the core where nobody can shake that, right? Because people might come along and try to like throw rocks at you, right? But I'm talking about to the point where nobody, absolutely no one and nothing can shake the core and the truth of who you are and your relationship with yourself. Nobody can throw that off. Nobody can cause you to detour. You're so solid and rooted and grounded in that, right? I used to really be like, oh man, I was not able to even speak my truth. I was so shy and I had a lot to say. I was a writer, a singer, a poet, whatever. And I had a lot to say, but I was so shy. I couldn't even keep eye contact with people. I was like, let me not talk to people. Let me hide. No. Embrace, right? Like come out. Let yourself come out fully. Like it's just so much. Oh, thank you. I love you. It's so much. And right, I'm gonna just put her up here because one of my best friends, Alyssa, gave me this like 2 years ago. And obviously it's a lion, but in Kemet, it represents the energy of Sekhmet. And yes, I am a Leo. So like I literally have this with me everywhere because that's the way I communicate. I come off in a very fiery, passionate way because I am very passionate about what it is I'm sharing. I don't just come on here to share just to share, right? Like everything that I am sharing comes from a place of experience, comes from a place of healing, comes from a place of deep care and love, comes from a place of empowerment and inspiration, right? And I'm literally sharing my truth in these womb portal series with you guys every single day for the next, how many, 7 more days, I guess now. But I'm sharing the truth of this because it's so important. It's so important. And I value I value sisterhood so much. It is the most sacred, beautiful thing there is. It really, truly is. Because that's how women grow. That's how women uplift each other. You can't walk this path alone as a woman. Like, and I mean that in the sense of, if you think that you don't need a sister community around you, you're wrong. Women empower you. Women hold you accountable. Women nurture you. Women love you. Women hold you in all of your phases, in all of your colors, in all of your seasons. Your sisters hold you and see you in the highest when you feel the lowest. And that's why sisterhood is so important. And so I'm really grateful to any women that like tune into this live or watch it at a later time, because it's really powerful. And the relationship I have with myself and how I operate in Ma'at with that, and how I operate in Ma'at and my relationships with other women, it shows, it reflects all the time, right? And so if there's anything I want you to get from this live, it's really just, what is your relationship with yourself? What is your relationship to self and to the Most High in you? And where do you want to be? What kind of relationship do you want to have with yourself, right? And just start thinking about those things, because if you're not in already living, embodying the experience of relationship with self that you desire, then there's some things that need to happen to shift into that. You know what it feels like to be in your highest embodiment. Only you and you alone know if you're not fully embodying that. Can't nobody else tell you that, right? Only you know that. So anyway, if you are seeking a sister community, a sister support group, I have that available. If you click the link in my bio, there's a tab that says join the Mother Womb Code Sister Community Group. We've already got a few women in there now. So I really want to keep adding more women into the group. This is a free space, right? I'm not going to tell you, you can't promote whatever healing you do and blah, 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 blah. You can promote, what your business is, whatever it is that you love, share a photo, tell people who you are, right? Share a little bit about yourself. And that is really the community where I'm going to be hosting like red tent sister circles, womb sister circles. I'll be giving free webinars in that group. I'll be giving away free oracle transmissions in that group. All types of things. So if you really want access to that, I highly recommend joining the group, because that is where I will be posting the most free content. But yeah, I'm really grateful to everybody that tuned into this live, and for those that will tune into it in the future. And tomorrow is going to be another day of this Womb Portal series. I think this is the longest live I've done out of the other few. So, yeah, I'm grateful. I love you guys so much. And like I said, if you aren't in the Facebook group, I highly, highly recommend you get in there, get supported by some divine, sacred women that are taking divine steps, right? And surround yourself with the embodiment, right? Surround yourself with women that are tuning into that self-love, that are honoring their relationships, that are honoring themselves, that are taking sacred steps. Like, surround yourself with those women. So anyway, thank you guys so much. If you have not checked out the Womb Portal Menstrual Rites of Passage program, the link is in my bio. I'm accepting applications now. Enrollment is open. Enrollment and applications they're going to be stopped on April 22nd, and classes begin May 2nd. So just make sure that if you want to apply, that you apply before April 22nd. And yeah. I look forward to seeing you in the program. I look forward to seeing you in the group. I am very, very excited to continue with this Womb Portal series and to keep putting out more information and more love and more support for the women in this world that are seeking that and that are really wondering, like, where is the true sisterhood? Like, not some fluff, but the real core, heart-centered, grounded, soul-filled, womb-filled thing, right? Like, all of it. So, like I said, if you're looking for the sister group, definitely click the link in my bio. I'd love to have more women in there. We've already got a few women, so please come join us. We would like to meet you, divine woman. All right. Mwah. Thank you guys so much. I love you. I love you. I love you. I will be back tomorrow with another live.